There is a beautiful, devastating cruelty in the way a single hourglass can measure both an eternal love story and the quiet fading of the souls who built it. For generations, Days of Our Lives was never just a classic television show. It was a deeply emotional sanctuary of passionate romances, heartbreaking sacrifices, and bitter family rivalries that bound millions of hearts together through the sands of time. But beyond the sunlit frames of Salem, a far more profound, silent script was being written by reality, one where the unyielding march of time eventually caught up with our beloved icons in ways no one could foresee. Looking back at these cherished faces today reveals a bittersweet landscape of memory where a precious few still carry the torch of life, while so many legendary pillars have already taken their final tragic bow into the twilight. In this cinematic retrospective, we will step past the nostalgia to reveal the real names, true ages, and private post-show lives of the entire foundational cast. Please, try to watch this video until the very end, because the final, devastating truth waiting for us at the close of this journey is exactly what will break our hearts the most. 1. Frances Reed. Days of Our Lives gave daytime television its sense of roots, and those roots often began with Alice Horton. Frances Reed, born on December 9, 1914, brought Alice Horton to life from the very beginning of the series in 1965, becoming the emotional center of Salem for decades. By the time of her passing in 2010, she was 95 years old. Alice Horton was warmth, moral strength, and quiet authority, the kind of character who felt less like fiction and more like the grandmother of an entire audience. Memories of Frances Reed are like a slow-motion film, imbued with the somber hues of a fiery past, now a vast and lingering nostalgia. This young woman abruptly ended her life after dangerous complications from a cyst, a seemingly benign and common condition, yet one that silently developed deep within the body, leading to a fateful rupture or torsion of the cyst, taking Frances Reed away from her loved ones in a moment of shock. Though hidden beneath her fragile appearance was an iron will, cruel fate did not allow her a complete miracle. By 2026, her monumental daytime legacy leaves a historic net worth estimated around $3 million at her passing. Choosing a modest, dignified lifestyle over a flashy garage of loud hypercars, her true wealth remains her permanent, affectionate place in our collective memory. 2. Frank Parker Days of Our Lives gave Salem a quiet sense of legacy, and that legacy was Sean Brady. Frank Parker, born on November 1, 1939, became known to daytime audiences through the role he portrayed across the 1980s and 1990s. By the time of his passing on September 16, 2018, he was 78 years old. Sean Brady was steady presence and moral grounding, a character shaped by duty, family, and the slow weight of time in a long-running drama. Heart disease is one of life's most cruel and unpredictable challenges. It not only ravages the body with chest pains and shortness of breath in the middle of the night, but also places individuals in a constant state of facing the fragility of life and death. For Frank Parker, the years living with the disease were a long, arduous journey through periods of anxious silence. Yet, behind that weak heartbeat, by 2026, Frank Parker holds an eternal, highly revered place in the hearts of classic entertainment lovers, leaving an estimated net worth of $5 million at his passing. Completely shunning the ostentatious vanity of modern luxury car collections, his true wealth remains beautifully preserved in his legendary contributions to daytime television and the comforting reruns that still bring families together. 3. Peggy McKay. Peggy McKay portrayed Caroline Brady in Days of Our Lives, joining the long-running soap as the emotional anchor of the Brady family. A veteran American actress born in 1927, she spent decades moving between television and stage before finding a second life in daytime drama. She passed away in 2018 at the age of 90, leaving behind a performance that felt less like acting and more like lived memory on screen. Peggy McKay secretly battled advanced, highly aggressive breast cancer, a devastating cancer challenge that caused intense pain, rapid physical decline, and severe exhaustion during the final days of filming. A detail that truly touched fans' hearts was how she faced this terrible threat in absolute privacy. Instead of letting the disease weaken her artistic spirit, Peggy McKay relied on extraordinary willpower to complete the final scenes while quietly undergoing grueling chemotherapy treatments between takes. At the time of her departure, Peggy McKay left behind a well-deserved, hard-earned estate estimated at $3 million. She guided her magnificent legacy with elegant, old-school simplicity, directing a massive portion of her wealth toward animal welfare charities rather than a loud, flashy collection of modern supercars. 4. John Aniston. Days of Our Lives gave power a dangerous elegance, and that elegance often wore the face of Victor Kiriakis. John Aniston, born on July 24, 1933, joined the series in 1985, originally appearing as the mysterious Dr. Eric Richards, before evolving into the ruthless but charismatic Victor Kiriakis. By the time of his passing in 2022, he was 89 years old. Victor was never just a villain. He was control, ambition, and quiet emotional fracture wrapped into one of daytime television's most enduring figures. In the quiet flow of time, the memory of John Aniston, like a slow-motion film, carries the somber hues of a fiery era, now settling into a vast nostalgia. He closed his chapter after months of bravely battling leukemia, a cruel, malignant disease that directly attacks the blood-forming system from deep within the body, gradually stripping away every drop of life and taking John Aniston away from the embrace of his loved ones in an all-too-short time. By 2026, his incredible character legacy leaves a historic net worth estimated around $10 million at his passing. Choosing a refined, quiet life over a flashy garage of loud hypercars, his true wealth remains his permanent, affectionate place in our collective memory. 5. Joseph Mascolo. Joseph Mascolo brought a rare intensity to daytime television as Stefano Demera in Days of Our Lives, 1965. Born on March 13, 1929, he became one of soap opera's most iconic villains. By the time of his passing in 2016, he was 87 years old. Stefano was not just a character, he was a shadow that moved through decades of Salem's history, shaping stories of power, revenge, and fragile redemption. Liver cancer is one of the most devastating challenges due to its insidious, yet incredibly aggressive progression. For Joseph Mascolo, the final months of his life were an arduous journey, enduring excruciating pain in his right lower rib area, his body exhausted by exhausting chemotherapy treatments, and the extreme fatigue caused by severely impaired liver function. Joseph Mascolo always chose to endure the pain alone, hiding his tears and blood-soaked handkerchiefs after each bout of vomiting in exchange for peace and optimism for his husband and children. By 2026, Joseph Mascolo holds a permanent, highly revered position in the hearts of classic television purists, leaving an estimated net worth of $1.6 million at the time of his passing, completely shunning the ostentatious vanity of massive luxury car collections. 6. John Clark. John Clark became a quiet pillar of American daytime television as Mickey Horton on Days of Our Lives. A founding presence of the series in 1965, he helped shape one of soap opera's most enduring families, the Horton legacy. Clark was 88 years old when he passed away in 2019, closing a life deeply tied to the earliest heartbeat of the show. John Clark secretly battled a severe, life-threatening case of end-stage renal disease, a devastating uremia that caused intense organ swelling, systemic toxicity, and extreme exhaustion during the final days of filming. A detail that truly broke fans' hearts was how he faced this terrible threat in complete privacy. Instead of letting the grueling dialysis schedule weaken his artistic spirit, John Clark relied on extraordinary inner strength to complete the final scenes while quietly managing his physical weakness between takes. At the time of his departure, John Clark left behind a well-deserved, hard-earned estate estimated at $2 million. He guided his magnificent legacy with elegant, old-school simplicity, prioritizing a peaceful California retirement and a profound devotion to family over a loud, flashy lifestyle. 7. MacDonald Carey Days of Our Lives began with a quiet kind of authority, and that authority often spoke through Dr. Tom Horton. MacDonald Carey, born on March 15, 1913, became the moral center of Salem from the show's beginning in 1965, portraying Tom Horton as a steady physician and family patriarch. He remained with the series until his death in 1994 at the age of 81. Tom Horton was not just a character. He was the conscience of the entire town, the voice people returned to when everything else fell apart. Memories of MacDonald Carey, like a slow-motion film, carry the somber hues of a fiery era, now settling into a vast sense of nostalgia. He abruptly ended his life after dangerous and rare complications arising from hemorrhoids, a seemingly common ailment, but when it reached necrosis, sepsis, or prolonged acute blood loss, it silently ravaged the circulatory system from deep within, taking MacDonald Carey away from his loved ones in a moment of shock. By 2026, his monumental daytime legacy leaves an estimated net worth around $5 million at his passing. Choosing a modest, deeply intellectual existence over a flashy garage of loud hypercars, his true wealth is his permanent, affectionate place in our collective memory. 8. Wayne Heffley. Wayne Heffley appeared in Days of Our Lives, 1965, as Vernon Schofield, a smaller but familiar face within the long-running world of Salem. Born on May 15, 1927, he belonged to a generation of character actors who quietly shaped American television from behind the spotlight. He passed away in 2008 at the age of 81, leaving behind a career that moved gently through decades of changing screens. Diabetes is an incredibly harsh challenge because it demands extraordinary patience and discipline from those afflicted in their daily lives. For Wayne Heffley, the final years were a long, arduous series of days filled with exhaustion from fluctuating blood sugar levels, slow healing, painful wounds, and declining vision, limiting his mobility. Yet, behind that frail, suffering body, he never uttered a word of complaint. Wayne Heffley always chose to hide the insulin injections, the thick pills, and his fears of kidney failure or cardiovascular problems in exchange for a smile. By 2026, Wayne Heffley holds a permanent, highly respected position in the hearts of classic television purists, leaving an estimated net worth of $1.2 million at the time of his passing. 9. Joy Garrett. Joy Garrett brought a quiet, emotional gravity to Days of Our Lives as Joe Johnson, a character woven into the show's family-driven heart. A singer-turned-actress, Garrett became a familiar presence in daytime television during the 1980s, embodying warmth, resilience, and everyday fragility. She was 47 years old when she passed away in 1993, leaving behind a role that felt lived in rather than performed. Joy Garrett secretly battled advanced, highly aggressive breast cancer, a devastating cancer challenge that caused intense pain, rapid physical decline, and profound exhaustion during the final days of filming. A detail that truly touched fans' hearts was how she faced this terrible threat in absolute privacy. Instead of letting the disease weaken her artistic spirit, Joy Garrett relied on extraordinary willpower to complete the final scenes while quietly undergoing grueling chemotherapy sessions between takes. At the time of her departure, Joy Garrett left behind a well-deserved, hard-earned estate estimated at $1 million. She guided her magnificent legacy with elegant, old-school simplicity, prioritizing a peaceful, art-filled California life and a profound devotion to vocal performance over a loud, flashy lifestyle. 10. Joseph Campanella. Days of Our Lives has always carried a shadowed elegance in its villains, and Harper Devereux was one of its most controlled forms of darkness. Joseph Campanella, born on November the 21st, 1924, brought the character to life in the 1980s, portraying Harper as a powerful, calculating figure tied deeply into Salem's corruption and family conflicts. Campanella passed away in 2018 at the age of 93. Memories of Joseph Campanella are like a slow-motion film imbued with the somber hues of a fiery era, now a vast and lingering nostalgia. He closed his life's chapter after dangerous complications from a brain disease, taking Joseph Campanella away from the embrace of his loved ones in an all-too short time. Though hidden beneath his fragile appearance was an iron will, cruel fate did not allow Joseph Campanella a complete miracle. By 2026, his monumental artistic legacy leaves an estimated net worth around $1.5 million at his passing. Choosing a modest, deeply respected existence over a flashy garage of loud hypercars, his true wealth remains his permanent, affectionate place in our collective memory. Watching him now, we softly realize that the sophisticated gentleman who brought so much intense drama to our screens has beautifully found his eternal peace. 11. Stuart Bradley, Lieutenant Danton, portrayed by Stuart Bradley in Days of Our Lives, 1965, is one of those quiet presences that briefly passed through Salem's long and winding memory. Bradley was a character actor of early television, appearing in supporting roles that rarely stayed in the spotlight long enough for full biographies to be widely recorded. Heart disease is one of fate's most cruel and unpredictable challenges. It not only ravages the body with sudden chest pains and shortness of breath in the middle of the night, but also places individuals in a constant state of facing the fragility of life and death. For Stuart Bradley, the years living with the disease were a long and arduous journey through periods of anxious silence. Yet, behind that weak heartbeat, he never lost his inherent gentleness and compassion. Stuart Bradley chose to hide his own weariness, silently enduring the heartaches to bring peace of mind to his family. By 2026, Stuart Bradley holds a permanent, highly respected position among daytime television historians, leaving an estimated net worth of $1 million at his passing. Completely shunning the ostentatious vanity of massive luxury car collections, his true wealth remains beautifully preserved in those archival. 12. Edward Mallory. Edward Mallory brought a calm, steady authority to Days of Our Lives as Dr. Bill Horton, one of the original pillars of the Horton family legacy. A stage-trained actor who moved between theater and television, Mallory became a grounding presence in daytime drama throughout the show's early decades, embodying intelligence, restraint, and emotional depth. He was 76 years old when he passed away in 2007, leaving behind a role that felt less like fiction and more like a living part of the show's memory. Edward Mallory secretly battled severe, life-threatening atherosclerosis, a silent cardiovascular disease that causes dangerous plaque buildup, serious heart blockages, and extreme physical fatigue during the final days of filming. A detail that truly broke fans' hearts was how he faced this exhausting threat in absolute privacy, instead of letting the illness weaken his artistic spirit. At the time of his departure, Edward Mallory left behind a well-deserved, hard-earned estate estimated at $1.5 million. He guided his magnificent legacy with elegant, old-school simplicity, choosing a peaceful, intellectual, academic life and a profound devotion to family over a loud,